when you find a dead bird and suddenly it has like these nasty worms crawling around in its eyeballs, and then also finding birds where their eyes are just empty sockets. The evidence is like smacking you right in the face. My name is Wes Ferguson. I wrote Can the Bobwhite Quail Be Saved for Texas Monthly.
He's pointing right here.
So this came in as a press release, and the funny thing is, if any journalist knows, you just get inundated with press releases every day, and most of the time, you know, you just hit delete, delete, delete. This one really caught my attention because it was something I'd never heard about. Here's this miracle cure for worms in bobwhite quails. The bobwhite quail is really a gorgeous bird. It has kind of a dumpy pear-shaped body, which is kind of funny, but it has like all these different colors on its feathers and these really beautiful black and white stripes on their face. And I'm sure that people in North America have been eating them since humans were here on this continent. But I think over time they became more of like a gentleman's hunting bird, you know, because, you know, they are kind of hard to shoot because they're so fast. They just bust out of the brush, and you've got to be a really good shot. It still is one of our premier game birds that are hunted. But since the 1960s, I think the population across America has declined by 85%. And Texas is no different. Their last strongholds in Texas are the rolling plains, north of Abilene, east of Lubbock, as one of their last bastions.
All right, we're out here at W7 Ranch in Garrison County, Texas. And this is some very good-looking quail habitat, and I've been talking to the quail. It sounds like this. The groups of quail we call a covey might be 15, 20 birds in a group. We're gonna put the bird dogs down, and what they're gonna do is locate these coveys for us. This is where the wild quail live.
So Dr. Kendall is a professor at Texas Tech, but he grew up in South Carolina, which had lots of bobwhite quail hunting traditions, and so he was excited to move out to Lubbock and work at Texas Tech because he knew he was going to be able to hunt these birds from his homeland.
Come on, come on.
Dr. Kendall's kind of a trip. He's very enthusiastic, he's very passionate.
I got him. The bobwhite quail. There's no finer game bird.
In 2010, they were really optimistic that it was going to be a great hunt because they'd had lots of good rain, the fields were green, everything was looking perfect for bobwhite, and then they get out there and the birds are gone. Even if you don't hunt bobwhite quail, you should be rooting for them to survive because that indicates that you have a healthy ecosystem for all the other animals and plants and birds and bugs that all come together to make sure that those ecosystems are thriving and healthy. If you can't protect this bird here in their last bastion, then we're going to lose them forever. Habitat loss and ranch fragmentation is no doubt probably the biggest problem facing quail, but not so much in the rolling plains, and Dr. Kendall knew there had to be something else affecting these birds on his ranch. Then he finds these birds, and you see these worms are visible to the human eye. Dr. Kendall is a professor of environmental toxicology, so he's really the perfect guy at the perfect time to make this discovery.
Here in the lab, we've spent the last approximately 12 years studying disease in our wild quail, our wild bobwhite quail. What we're looking at here is some eye tissue from infected wild quail. And you can see the eye worms moving around some of the eye tissue. They don't exist just on the eyeball itself. They're penetrating tissue in the eye, feeding and reproducing. And it can cause blindness, it can cause damage to the eye. That's what's in our quail.
So Dr. Kendall could see with his own eyes that this was a huge problem on his ranch and his neighbor ranches, but they had to back that up with actual research. So they went out and did rigorous studies. They trapped birds and looked at them, and they found that nearly every bird was infested with these worms. I talked to Joe Crafton with the Park Cities Quail Coalition.
We raise several $1 million a year. It goes right back into research and education to support quail hunting.
One of the interesting points that he brought up was how hunters are deeply invested in conservation.
People don't really understand the counterintuitive argument. We love animals, but we hunt animals. But the fact is, without that, land use would change dramatically, and all wildlife would suffer.
It's essentially the canary of the prairie, all right? It's a signal bird. It's telling us something about the health of our ecosystem. We want to sustain and preserve wild quail hunting tradition in Texas.
You know, we have a lot of worming medication for livestock and for dogs, and so he thought, you know, if it works for all these other animals, why would it not work for the bobwhite quail? They came up with the name QuailGuard. It's kind of like chicken scratch, you know, the stuff that you would feed to your chickens with a little bit of that medicine mixed in. Dr. Kendall's son, Ronnie, he really focused on creating these shed-like metal structures that would allow the bobwhite quail to go in and eat the feed while preventing any other animal from getting access to it.
So this is the Quail Safe. The feed just goes in the hopper here. There's some QuailGuard in there. This is the perfect height for an adult quail to feed off this feed plate. There's ground entry holes on all 4 sides. On the top here is the electronic cubby collar.
You know, they theorized that this medicine would work, but then they had to prove it. The next step was to go out in the field. They partnered with some ranchers out in the rolling plains and were putting out the medicine there. And we're also able to document that this medicine is making a difference in these areas.
I've been here all my life. The quail were decimated by the diseases. 10 years ago was the last good hunt I've had. This year, it's phenomenal. I haven't seen bird counts like this since I was 9 years old.
It finally got FDA approval in May 2024. If you have a ranch, if you're worried about your quail, I mean, this is now a tool that is available to you and everyone else just like you. He could end up being like one of the most important figures in saving the bobwhite quail.
This is, you know, what a lot of us live for, quail hunt in Texas. And this is a part of our natural resources and such a valuable part of the land.